Welcome to the Fourth and Long podcast with Alec Pecano on Saturday, September 21st. On today's show, I will be going over some stat predictions, some score predictions, bold predictions, and players to watch from me and my co-host, which my co-host will be returning on Tuesday. But let's get right into the stat predictions from me. My co-host didn't send any in, but I've got mine. My first one is I've got Miami of Ohio quarterback Brett Gabbert throwing for. Oh no, correction. It is Miami of Ohio running back Kenny Mosey running for 100 yards and a touchdown against Notre Dame, as well as Cole McDonald, 90 receiving yards and a touchdown against Notre Dame. My second stat prediction is I think both quarterbacks in the Auburn-Arkansas game have a huge game. I think Taylor Green and Hank Brown both throw for 300 yards in the Auburn-Arkansas game. And then the last one, and this is the key one for USF to pull the upset tonight, is Naquan Wright rushes for 100 yards and a touchdown, as well as 74 receiving yards. Now, we are going to get to some bold predictions, and I'm going to start with my co-host. He has 4 bold predictions. His first bold prediction is California will dominate Florida State and send Florida State to 0-4. I'm going to say I actually agree with this bold prediction because Florida State refuses to bench DJ Uiagalelei. And I think if they want any chance at winning any games this year, they need to bench DJU and put Brock Glenn in at quarterback. His second bold prediction is the NC State Clemson game, which one of my players to watch is the quarterback at NC State, and it's not Grayson McCall. I talked about the kid yesterday, but he thinks the NC State Clemson game is going to be closer than people think, and I can actually see that happening. His third bold prediction is LSU took a close win against South Carolina last week, and he thinks that they have a big win at home versus UCLA. And I actually agree with that because UCLA might be the worst team in the Big Ten. They only score 16 points per game, which is atrocious. And then his last bold prediction is USF will win a close game over undefeated Miami. Now we get to my bold predictions, and I've got 3. My third bold prediction is Jeremiah Smith, or as some people call him, JJ, will have not 1, but 2 receiving touchdowns today against Marshall. That is my third bold prediction. My second bold prediction, and I just talked about him a minute ago in my players to what in my stat predictions. It is Naquan Wright. He rushes for 100 yards tonight against that Miami defense. And my number 1 bold prediction, and Florida fans, you're going to like this. Graham Mertz gets benched tonight against Mississippi State for DJ Lagway. And his players to watch are, my co-host players to watch are, he's got 4. His first one is Nico Iamaleava-Livea. And he says quarterback at Tennessee will have a big game against Oklahoma and help Tennessee beat Oklahoma. his second player to watch. And this was one of my keys yesterday when I was talking about the USF Miami game. It is Byron Brown. USF quarterback has to be a big factor, and he will in a USF upset win. His third player to watch is Arch Manning, who is making his first start for Texas. His era at Texas has started, and now he's in charge of the new number one team in the country. And that's another one I agree with. That Arch Manning should be a player to watch, and his last player to watch is Haynes King of Georgia Tech. Quarterback for Georgia Tech will have to have a huge game for the Yellow Jackets to upset Georgia Tech. And my players to watch for this week. And my first player to watch is Kevin Coleman Jr., wide receiver for Mississippi State. I think if Mississippi State wants to avoid the upset against Florida, they're going to have to feed KCJ early and often. They're going to have to get him the ball. Florida's best corner is probably going to be on him. My second player to watch is NC State quarterback C.J. Bailey. And he's a true freshman. He's making his first collegiate start for, I'm going to go with it's the injured Grayson McCall. And let's see how C.J. Bailey does. McCall might not get his job back. And my number 3 player to watch is South Florida wide receiver Sean Atkins, who USF needs to get involved early and often in the game tonight against Miami. And I will be making a change to game picks going forward, as voted on by my loyal fan base and subscribers. I will be picking a winner for every single game in the Power 4 and 2 Group of 5 conferences starting next week. But let's get to some score predictions for this week. And the first game we're going to start with is NC State Clemson. And yes, I do think this is going to be a very, very close game. But I think NC State ends up winning and upsetting Clemson 35-28 on a last-second touchdown from C.J. Finley. Then you got James Madison in North Carolina. Now, watch out for a potential upset here. Not saying it's going to happen. I think North Carolina pulls away late and wins this game by at least 10. Give me North Carolina 40, James Madison 20. Then you got UVA and Coastal Carolina. I think the final score is going to be, I think Virginia ends up losing here, and it's not going to be close. I think it's on the Teal Field in Conway, South Carolina. And I think Coastal wins 58-10. Georgia Tech, Louisville. Georgia Tech's going to win this game. And I think it's going to be a close game. 28-21, somewhere around there. Virginia Tech, Rutgers. Virginia Tech. Give me Tech. Give me Virginia Tech 35-28. I think that's going to be a close game. Pitt, Youngstown State. This shouldn't be a game at all. Pitt should run them out of the stadium. They should be up by 40 at halftime. Middle Tennessee Duke. It explains itself in the name, mid. I think this is going to be a mid-tier game. But Duke wins 58-10. Now, here's the game where I think there's going to be a lot of scoring. SMU and TCU. I think the final score is going to be somewhere in the 50s, maybe 58, 55, 59, 50, somewhere around there. Now, the game, I mean, I'll be watching all these games today, but this is a game at 7 o'clock that I will be watching. One of the games. USF and Miami. I think it's going to be a low-scoring defensive battle to start, and USF is going to force at least 3 turnovers from Miami. And I think that USF and Miami, they end up putting up maybe 28 points, and USF ends up winning 35-21. And an upset. Florida State is next. This game screams, look at the total, 44.5. This screams low scoring, maybe 21-17, 24-17, somewhere around there. And I think Cal does win. The red bandana game between Boston College and Michigan State. I think this is another game that has a lot of significance here. Boston College doesn't necessarily have to win this game. I think they need to win it. And I think they end up getting the win over Michigan State, 35-28. Believe me, next, we're going to the SEC, and I'm going to give you some score predictions in the SEC. We already did Florida. Kentucky, Ohio. Kentucky should win this game, and I think the final score is probably going to be around the 50s, 50-10 maybe, or maybe 50-0. UCLA, LSU. UCLA has been trying to get out of this game for the last 2+ years. Too bad, so sad. They have to play it. And I think they're going to get killed. I think they're going to get beat really bad. I think LSU puts up half 100 on them. They lay a 50 burger on them. 50-16 maybe. 50-10. Arkansas, Auburn. This game, look at the total. 55.5. I'm going to say this right now before I tell you the score. Stay away from the spread. I don't trust Auburn to cover that 2.5 because I think there's going to be a ton of scoring here. And if you saw earlier in the week who my upset pick was here, it was Arkansas because I don't trust. It's not that I don't trust Hank Brown. It's just we've only seen one game out of Hank Brown, and it was against a bad New Mexico team. Can he put 2 good games together so we can start building trust in him? I think he can. And for that reason, I think this final score ends up being somewhere. You need to get over 55.5. I think it ends up being like a 48-42 game. Vanderbilt, Missouri. Missouri is going to win this game. I'm going to say by 40. And it's going to be 55-10. Now, the quote-unquote game of the week, Tennessee, Oklahoma. And the total is 57.5. And I personally, I'm going to take. I'm taking the over, obviously, and I think the final score is going to be somewhere in the 50s. 57, 55, maybe 58, 55. A&M Bowling Green. A&M is going to destroy Bowling Green. 59-0. South Carolina, I think even though Robbie Ashford's starting, I think they still win this game against Akron. And they do it easily. 48-0. Ole Miss and Georgia Southern. Ole Miss easily wins. And I think they put up half 100, so they put up 50. Texas A&M, the first start for Arch Manning. I think he has a big game. And Texas goes out and wins 64-0. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already subscribed and you feel like you've learned something, the easiest way to become an MVP on this channel is to subscribe. That is the only way to become an MVP, is to subscribe to the channel, and you get your upset picks for college football, your game picks for college football, picks against the spread, over, under. NFL, you get your locks, your upset picks, game picks, and we have 3 more play-by-play games left this year. We got Boston College, Virginia Tech in a couple weeks. We've got Ohio State, Pitt. We've got Memphis, South Florida, and we've got Penn State, Ohio State. And I will have my co-host with me for the South Florida, Memphis game on, I believe it is October 11th. It's somewhere in there. Yeah, I think it's October 11th is when the South Florida Memphis game is. But as well, I will be doing my new rankings for college football every month. I believe it comes out every Tuesday. It's either Monday or Tuesday. It's one of the two that it comes out. And don't miss those. You can debate me in the comments and tell me who I missed out on ranking or who you think deserves to be ranked. I welcome the chatter in the comment section. Also, don't forget to vote on the community polls. You have a say in this channel. But I think that's going to wrap up this morning's video. Enjoy your college football Saturday.